Aloha, everybody, and welcome to week 3. Last week, we talked about how to measure the macroeconomy using GDP and the business cycle. But this week, we're going to dive into two topics that hit a little bit closer to home and kind of dominate the news cycle. And these two topics are unemployment and inflation. In the US, the Federal Reserve has what's called a dual mandate from Congress. Basically, they need to pursue maximum employment as well as stable prices. So, for this lecture, I'm not going to be clicking through any slides, but I do want you to pull up the two infographics that I provided in this week's module. And so, I'm going to walk through them with you so that you're fully prepared for this week's activities. And so I'm going to start with the first infographic, which was the maximum employment. When we talk about the labor market, it's really important to understand who is actually counted. And so your labor force is made up of the employed and the unemployed. But unemployed has a very specific definition in economics. So to be counted as unemployed, you need to be 16 years or older, currently not working, and you must have actively looked for work at least once in the last 4 weeks. So if you're 15 or younger, or maybe even in the military, or if you're institutionalized, or maybe just not working and not looking for work. So let's just say a full-time student, maybe a stay-at-home parent or a retiree, you are considered completely out of the labor force. Now let's take a look at this section. So there are 3 main types of unemployment. First is frictional, next is cyclical, and then we also have structural unemployment. So let's look at frictional unemployment first. So frictional unemployment is actually normal and healthy. It really just consists of new entrants to the job market, or maybe even just people who are switching jobs and looking for the right fit. On the other hand, we also have cyclical unemployment. This is the bad kind of unemployment. It's driven by a lack of demand and usually happens during recessions. And then finally, we have structural unemployment. So these are people who have lost their jobs due to advances in technology. And so in the US, there's been a steady decline of the manufacturing sector because there's so much automation and outsourcing really just eliminated thousands of traditional factory jobs. And we can even think about the impact that AI is having on traditional jobs or even just IT jobs. And because the labor market is so complex, economists look at different data points. Usually, if you're watching the news or hearing about the unemployment rate, usually they're using what's called the U3 rate. So the U3 rate only counts people who are actively looking for work. But the Federal Reserve, they look at the U6 rate. And the U6 is a broader measure because it includes what's called marginally attached workers, or people who want a job, but maybe they're discouraged and they've given up looking for now. The U6 rate also includes people who are working part-time for economic reasons, meaning that they want full-time hours, but maybe they can't get them right now. Now let's switch over to the second infograph titled Price Stability. And price stability happens when the rate of inflation is kept low as well as stable over an extended period of time. And inflation is basically the average increase in the prices of everything sold in our economy. And so if you take a look at this section regarding purchasing power, let's imagine that it's just year one or maybe last year. You buy these things, you buy ice cream, hot dogs, french fries, and soda. And it might just cost you a few dollars. But this year, in year two, because of inflation, it takes 88% more money to buy that exact same basket of food. And so here, your money just doesn't go as far as it did last year. And so to measure inflation, economists use indices. So I'm going to scroll down to the CPI section for now. The one that you hear the most about is the CPI, or the Consumer Price Index. And your CPI measures the average change over time in the prices paid by urban consumers for a fixed basket of goods and services. However, the Federal Reserve itself actually prefers to use a different metric, and this is called the PCE, or Personal Consumption Expenditures Index. And they use this to set its official 2% inflation target. Okay, and here we have a distinction between headline and core inflation. So headline inflation includes everything in the basket. So this includes food and energy. But because food and gas prices move around so much from month to month, economists usually look at core inflation. So core inflation excludes those volatile food and energy prices. And this actually gives us a much better picture of underlying short-term inflation trends. But let's also talk about the winners and losers of inflation. So inflation is an invisible force that transfers wealth. When unanticipated inflation hits, usually borrowers gain and lenders lose. And so let's just imagine that you borrow $100 from the bank at a fixed interest rate. If massive inflation hits, then the value of a dollar drops. So when you pay the bank back years later, you're handing them dollars that have significantly less purchasing power than the dollars they originally gave you. And the borrower wins because their debt is basically cheaper to pay off. And in this case, the lender loses because their real return is kind of wiped out. So stay tuned for the next video where I'll be giving some examples that should help with the Module 3 assignment.